getaway.
Short on air, and every time we reach a new horizon, it's like you don't care, and we're leaving something bare. And in the water I see cold reflections of what's really there. I'm not waiting on love, our time has gone. We're fighting empires and I want to feel the fire again. It's not easy to love when the world is numb. We're fighting empires and we're gonna feel the fire again. Be there, and all the valleys that we're marching on through, not even aware that it's the darkness that's so hard to see. And I'm asking you to fight, just but the difficulty breaking free from what's really there. I'm not waiting on love, our time has come. We're fighting empires and I want to feel the fire. Tell me the truth, tell me what's bothering you. We know we're future-proof, we know we're future-proof. Tell me the truth, tell me what's bothering you. We know we're future-proof, we know we're future-proof. Tell me the truth, tell me what's bothering you. We know we're future-proof, we know we're future-proof. Tell me the truth, tell me what's bothering you. We know we're future-proof, we know we're future-proof.
If you play the strings, I'll sing all night. I need a remedy, and melodies always make me feel alright. If you set the scene, I'll dim the lights. Creating memories, we treasure these forever throughout our lives. You can be my remedy, my therapy through the night. I can feel your energy, you're healing me, stars align. If you play those keys, I'll feel alive. It's the chemistry, I feel it deep, the strength I had lost revives. You know how it feels to sink in time. It's so heavenly, serenity forever throughout our lives.
All summer we laid in the park, 80 degrees by the time it gets dark. My head on your shoulder, I'm around mine. Racing you down to the edge of the water, the way your tattoos look under your collar. I'm not gonna worry, we're passing the time. And the hardest days are going fast, and I know that nothing ever lasts, 'cause it feels like we're both where we're supposed to be. Windows down, driving slow while you're kissing me, but I know I'm gonna crash. City was made for losing you, falling, finding someone new. But call me at 2 in the
What is up, Level Up Nation, and welcome to the Thursday, October 8th edition of LvLUp Live, your home for gaming and esports news, brought to you by OTN Media. My name is Fiasco. His name's Courtside King. You call me John. You call him Joey. We're all friends here. Joey, what's poppin', buddy? It is Thursday. It is Friday Eve. The weekend is just a little over 24 hours away.
I don't know if I've been more excited for a Friday in the last 6 months. I am so tired. I've been working overtime these last couple weeks for my main job on top of this OTN stuff. So again, guys, we apologize. John and I have both been very busy between work, between moves and different things like that. So we've been a little absent from the Discord here and there. We had to cut a few shows last week. I think we're almost back on track fully. I think this weekend will help finalize that. As you can see, John has his new little backdrop working back there as well. So we're making moves, but it's been exhausting the last couple weeks.
It has been a roller coaster the past 2 weeks. I am ready for a weekend of just relaxing, bumming out, maybe playing some FIFA 21. You can't play your friends in Volta, but it is what it is. But Nation, make sure if you're not doing so already, make sure you follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at LvLUp Live. That is at LvLUp Live. And while you're on Twitter, Joey and I need some followers, Joey, you're what, over 700 followers?
Something around there. It bounces around so much, I can't keep track.
I just jumped over 600. I think I had 3 fake WWE profiles follow me for some random reason. 2 of them just got like permabanned. It's really weird. Not that I'm paying attention. What I'm trying to say is if you are looking for more gaming, esports, and just downright tomfoolery on Twitter, follow the show, follow Joey, follow myself. It's a good time. And Nation, as always, if you do wish to listen to the podcast version of the show, the LvLUp Podcast is available on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. And since you're listening to the podcast anyways, why not leave a really cool review? Reviews do go a long way, help reach new listeners and grow the audience. So we do appreciate any reviews that we can get on the show. It can be positive, it can be negative, preferably on the positive side. If it's negative, hit us up on Twitter. There you go. Make sure you follow there as well, and we can take your complaints and compliments as well. All right, Joey. It's Thursday. Worlds for League of Legends is chugging along. I know that's one of our really awesome topics we're going to be hitting on. NA fanboys, grab your tissues. It's going to be a sad episode. But Joey, let's talk about some positives. What else are we talking about today on the Thursday edition here on LvLUp Live?
I think we have some positives built in here. Some new roster signings. GameStop may live a couple more years, ladies and gentlemen. A big partnership coming out for them today. We do have our first look at Sony's PS5 as well. A little hardware breakdown on that one. A new campaign starting for Xbox soon. Activision-Blizzard making some staffing moves. The NBA 2K League's new draft rules, and much, much more.
All right, so we have our topics. NA fanboys have their tissues and tears ready, hand in hand. Joey, before we can even jump into the sadness, we have to talk about our drink of choice. For some of us NA fanboys out there, this drink will help us. For EU fanboys, I feel like you guys are doing pretty well so far. So Joey, your drink of choice for today, October 8th, in the year of COVID, 2020.
I have a bit of wine left over from dinner, so I have refilled my glass. I'm going with a Robert Mondavi. I believe it's the Bourbon Barrel Cabernet Sauvignon, if I remember correctly.
I freaking love that wine. That is like the best $9 bottle wine ever. It's got that nice little bourbon kick at the end from being aged in that barrel. That is look at that. You're coming to LvLUp Live for gaming esports news, and we're going to get you cultured on wine is what's going to happen. Joey, I could not be more proud to be your friend and associated with you right now than with that beautiful, beautiful drink of choice. Sir, you have won this segment because I just have Bacardi lemon rum in a gigantic...
In a bottle, though.
A gigantic glass of Coke. So I'm going lemon rum and Coke. But you, sir, have made LvLUp Live incredibly classy. I feel like we need to move to a studio in Los Angeles now. I am very, very impressed with your beverage, and I feel like you have the rest of the show. I can just take the rest of the night off if you're.
I mean, you say that as I'm sitting here drinking wine in a hoodie, though. It's not like I'm wearing a button-down shirt or anything. Like, hey, we gotta bring a little bit of both sides in tonight.
If you want to see Joey wear a tuxedo on Monday on LvLUp Live, let us know on Twitter.
You guys can pay the receipt.
Seriously. Joey, you have your wine. I have my East Coast beverage that's not as classy as you. Joey, let's get right into gaming and esports news. Let's go.
Kicking things off with Cloud9, where that banner once hung behind you and no longer, as it is
Used to be
redone by some nice paneling. Cloud9 has added a CSGO player. They've added Floppy as their fourth man to their new EU-based C9 Colossus squad. Floppy's coming in at a 3-year deal worth $432,000. John, Floppy is not a new player to C9. Floppy's been around for a while. He's played on their NA team. He's been with that organization for quite a bit. To me, this is just saying Cloud9 is trying to reinforce what they're making in this Cloud9 Colossus roster in EU. Moving someone like Floppy, who's been an anchor of the team, who's shown that he's been around and can perform well for quite a while. This is moving him to a new thing to try to get together with these new players in this new experiment that C9 is starting up over in EU. I think it's a good move overall. I think Floppy's a very talented player. Cloud9, once again, do a great job of, let's say, farming up young talent. When it comes to academy systems, Cloud9 is one of those teams that continues to reinvest in their youth talent, either in League of Legends, Counter-Strike, Dota 2. They've done it before, a number of different scenes. And I think this is just another move where they have found a young player. They've done well with him, and now they're continuing to grow him as well.
Yeah, I like it. And this isn't the first time Cloud9 has gone with a player that has been with the organization once or twice before. Grego is a player that comes to mind that played for the NA Overwatch League team. Pardon me, not Overwatch League, Overwatch team for C9. Then when they dropped the NA roster, he came back as an Apex Legend player for a bit. So so C9 is good to their own people. I like Floppy being added back for the EU-based Colossus squad. I like it. I think it's great. And I love the fact that Cloud9 shows loyalty to the players that actually do work out for their organization one way or another.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other big thing here is the fact that Henry and C9 continue to show us time and time again what these contracts are like. So they're giving us the amount of time, the 3-year deal. They're giving us the amount of money going in here. They're saying what role Floppy's going to continue to play within the organization. It's just very clear and concise, and something that we don't really have necessarily in esports right now. Overall, we're going to buy out this player for a ton of money, and he's going to come represent our team. And that's great and wonderful and great. But when you have all that secret behind the scenes things, there's a lot of guessing for fans. How much are players actually being paid? Are they actually worth the amount they're being paid? Can I only expect this player to be on the team for 1 year? Or are we going to get a long-term deal like this one where it's 3 years, where I can know I can invest in a jersey for this player? And yes, he could be traded, but there's a good chance that he could still be a starter 3 years down the road as well. So I really like the transparency that we're getting out of Cloud9 as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a breath of fresh air. I know we've hit on it several times here, but again, the fact that Cloud9's doing this and being very transparent is really a breath of fresh air in the esports scene, because there is a lot of questions in regards to how long these players are signed for. And again, it's also good as a pro to compare yourself to other pros in the terms of how much you're making and everything else, and like what you deem your value is. You know, obviously, if, someone's getting paid a lot more than you are, but you just won, a national championship, or let's say you just won a major, then you're going to sit here and be like, hey, look, this guy finished in 8th place. He's getting paid twice the amount when I'm going. So this is my new negotiation. So I like it. It's going to be good for esports overall. I think it's a smart move. I want more organizations to do it. So kudos to Cloud9, not just because I'm a Cloud9 fan, because I do think that is the correct decision going forward for esport organizations.
Yeah, and I don't know who implemented it either. I think a lot of credit goes to Henry over there as the new GM for CSGO for Cloud9. This is not something Cloud9 has done for any of their other scenes. They just signed that Grandmaster chess player. They've signed a number of other players recently that have not given us any salary information. So I think this is based on Henry, but I would assume he has approval from Jack doing this as well. So big steps forward, especially that C9 CSGO. This roster looks amazing so far. And again, the transparency is next level. NRG has announced their latest Valorant signing in Sam, who will be joining teammate Daps and coach Chet Singh as well. Again, we don't have too many things to mention on this NRG roster as they're still kind of building it out. 2 players so far, though, in Sam and Daps. Both players very talented. They've proven themselves in a number of scenes before, CSGO being one of the bigger ones, now making their way over here to Valorant and at least kicking things off with a nice roster, at least with 2 players deep. Again, 3 players still to be named. So this roster could go anywhere from the top to the bottom, but it's a solid foundation, I think we can say at the least. Next up in the last for our industry acquisitions this week, we have Ford Model signing WNBA star and gaming influencer and friend of the show, Ariel Powers, to their esports and gaming division. John, you and I have worked with MSE and Ariel a number of times before. We've interacted on Twitter with her quite a few times as well. Ariel is one of those people that really stands out for the gaming community, as well as female athletics in general. She's a great influencer, very well spoken, a great personality to have, and I think Ford Models has a big winner signing her to the table here.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely massive. Ariel's really brought a huge spotlight to female gamers and just kind of squashing that stigma that women can't be gamers, that gaming is a male-driven environment. Yes, there are a lot of guys that game. Yes, there's also a lot of women that game. They may not be as open to talking about it just because, let's be honest, go online and when you hear a female gamer on your team, what normally happens? End of story. So Ariel Powers being an amazing figure, not just in the sports world, like Joey said, but in gaming as well. She's done a lot with WizDG throughout the season. That is the NBA 2K League champion WizDG. Throughout the time, I just love that. I'm sorry. But she's been absolutely fantastic for gaming. She held several women's tournaments for NBA 2K. And I love the fact that she's continuing this journey, bringing a spotlight to women gaming, and hopefully we'll see more professional women gamers in the scene here as that scene continues to grow, with women finally not having that stigma over their head of being gamers. Hopefully they make that next jump in to the esports scene in a more prevalent light.
And just to be clear, even though she's a WNBA pro as well, Ariel does play a number of different games.
She does.
NBA 2K being one of those games, but I know she's dove into Call of Duty. She's played Battle Royales before. She's one of those people who has jumped into many different genres. So she's made those connections outside of just NBA game players as well. Partnerships and investments, John. This one threw us for a little bit of a loop today. We both did not see this one coming. GameStop has announced a multi-year partnership with Microsoft. The idea behind this partnership is to expand GameStop's physical and digital omni-channel ecosystem. By the way, this is quoted, guys, and enhance GameStop's retail tech infrastructure to create the ultimate gaming destination for gamers. John, this is one that it threw us for a loop a little bit. We just don't really understand where this is coming from. I think it's a big win for Microsoft overall. Now this gives Microsoft, with them closing down their storefronts, it gives them another location to have that physical embodiment of pushing the Xbox Series X and S out the door. On top of that, GameStop signing on to all their services. So we're talking like 365, Teams. They're going to use Microsoft Surfaces as their tablets. It's going to be very Microsoft heavy when it comes to their retail. But I don't really see how this keeps GameStop alive for that much longer either.
How much money does Microsoft have that they can just make partnerships with companies that should have been out of business 5, 6, 8, 10 years ago? I think GameStop is the lucky one here, hands down. Microsoft didn't have to do this. They could have kept going in the direction they were going with Microsoft stores. But the fact that they're willing to essentially take GameStop, a failing company, under their wing, a company that if you go on YouTube right now and Google GameStop employees, a company who has treated their employees as horribly as they're like, we as consumers going to GameStop, we think we get ripped off when we trade in a $60 game and we get $2.50 store credit. Or 75 cents in cash when you trade in. You think that's bad? GameStop has a lot of unrealistic expectations for their employees as well. So while Microsoft is coming in and essentially bailing out GameStop, I really hope the culture of Microsoft gets infused into GameStop as well, because I feel like that's going to be a major turning point. If you're going to continue to have physical stores like GameStop and you're going to be pushing your products through GameStop, you want to make sure the image of GameStop is going to be good enough for the customers when they actually return to, if they return to stores, physical stores, because there's that huge digital online push. Happy employees, happy customers. Simple as that. How many times have you as a customer, Joey, walked into a company, a store, and you had to deal with an employee that just wasn't having a good day, and like they're short with you, and then in turn you have a bad shopping experience. You're like, okay, I'm never coming back here again. Oh, because one person had a bad day. Same thing here. If GameStop treats their employees better, they're happy to go to work. They actually pay them a decent salary. They're definitely happier to be there. then in turn you can really turn around GameStop. But there's a lot of ifs, ands, buts, asterisks, and everything surrounding this. But I am cautiously optimistic for this partnership going forward. But I was definitely shocked today when this news came out.
I don't know. It's weird to me. This to me is like AMC or some kind of DVD company investing into Blockbuster. Like, it's one of those things where we've seen so many digital platforms take off. In videos, you have Netflix, you have Amazon Prime, you have Hulu. When it comes to gaming, okay, so GameStop is going to have this nice digital platform. That's great. I'm sure it'll look nice, beautiful. But now you're competing with Epic Store, you're competing with Steam, you're even competing with the old Microsoft Store, which is terrible, but hopefully has some updates coming. So it's one of those things where it's like, well, how much is this really going to benefit, and who paid who what and what amount? Like, for Microsoft, I see this as a big thing for launch. One, it gives you more physical stores to release your new Xbox consoles in. It'll probably be great next year as well. We don't know what multi-year means. It could be 2, 3, 10, who knows? But a few of the other things for the GameStop side, like, okay, if you're paying for these services from Microsoft, because I don't know what it looks like, how much are you really getting back from this? If it's Microsoft paying, I think this is a win for GameStop because it kind of keeps them alive. It keeps them a bit on life support and gives them all these new features. But if you're Microsoft being the recipient, I don't know if GameStop really gets anything big out of this. I think this is crazy.
It's absolutely nuts. I still have a hard time believing that this deal actually happened. It's going to be interesting to watch how this plays out. Definitely for gamers and everyone alike. It's interesting, not just because we're in the middle of a pandemic and a lot of businesses are struggling, but it's just interesting because GameStop has been a company that's been struggling for well over a decade in a model that hasn't been very successful with the digitizing of the gaming industry with that direction. So it's going to be interesting to see how this actually does affect GameStop and how much pull Microsoft is going to have here. And who knows, we may see a complete 180. I don't think that's in the books for GameStop. I feel like there's a lot of bridges that have been burned with consumers with GameStop, and I don't think Microsoft will be able to pull those people back in. But it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting how it plays out. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully people will return to GameStop. Hopefully there's some kind of rejuvenation with that company. It's just so weird. And that Blockbuster, English is hard today. Blockbuster and AMC example, Joey, is spot on. It just makes no sense.
Yeah, it just feels weird. So just a final breakdown, guys. They're getting Dynamics 365. They're going to be using Microsoft's Azure Cloud. Microsoft Surface devices will be distributed for the personnel at these GameStops. On top of that, they'll be using Microsoft 365 and Office, Microsoft Teams, all the full suite of everything that a business company would use. Microsoft supposedly, as a result, is getting a bit more product placement in GameStop, so I guess it'll be a bit more front and center. Maybe GameStop employees push Xbox a little bit more, as I think there are bonuses related to people being brought into the Xbox ecosystem from GameStops. On top of that is an Xbox All Access location as well for the console launch. So if someone is buying into that 24-month plan, they can do that at GameStop. And now it looks like GameStop is an officially supported one by Microsoft itself, not just a secondhand type of thing going on. So, yeah, I think this is a weird partnership. I'm curious to see how it plays out. Again, GameStop did add a lot of big people to their board recently. I think it was back in April. They added the previous head and president of Nintendo. They added a number of other big name people as well. So you're looking at, I don't want to call it a re-emergence, but a different approach from a new, fresh board that comes with a lot of big executives from across the gaming industry now giving some insight and possibly also making deals like this with Microsoft possible. Over to our other gaming news for the week, we have a little thing from IGN. John, I don't know if you want to play this on stream or just chat about it, but IGN Japan did a little trolley video to poke a little bit fun at Sony after Sony did the thing we talked about on Monday where they allowed different YouTubers, content creators to come into this giant white room with PS5 consoles, and they were able to play games and touch the controller, but were not able to go anywhere near the actual console itself, which was super weird, and it's interesting, and it brought up some of those heat issues potentially. But now we have IGN Japan actually making fun of them by touching an Xbox Series X and cradling it like a baby, if you want to play this quick video.
All right. I had to quickly
It
wing
is weird
this.
as heck, guys. Like, seriously.
Okay.
This is that weird Japanese humor that I do not quite understand.
Here we go. This is great. This is fantastic.
It is just so goofy. It is brilliant though.
It's so they're like touching all the ports and everything. It's hysterical. It's like, oh, it's a little baby.
It is beyond wacky.
It's like, word. Okay, we're not watching that again.
That is plenty enough.
That is something for sure.
Yeah, very, very interesting. So that's your IGN Japan over there saying, hey, why have we not got a console? So far, Sony, again, has not sent consoles to anyone. They have allowed different YouTube creators to have it in that enclosed space with those very strict guidelines. And then Travis Scott also has a console, which we mentioned on Monday, which is just very interesting. But other than that, no one else has really touched the PS5 as of yet. So peculiar. Days later, we did get a breakdown, though, John. I believe this breakdown came out on Wednesday, if I remember correctly. So the PlayStation 5 breakdown video, it's a little bit of a teardown video where they're taking it completely apart, showing off the different parts. A few takeaways, John. It is a very, very large console.
It's massive.
We are talking very tall, like ginormously tall, like tall drink of water console. This sucker is going to be hard to fit in entertainment cabinets, but it does have that unique futuristic design to it. One cool thing that we found with it, the faceplates are easily removable. So those big white plates on the side, you can pull them off. To me and you, John, I think this is one cool way that customization could come in. Imagine like a God of War plate, Ghost of Tsushima plate put up there. Last of Us. There's a bunch of different customizable plates because they snap off so easily that PlayStation could really distribute these plates, make custom plates. Xbox Pope is a really cool community artist out there that does a lot of these custom designs. I think this could be a really big avenue for Sony to find some revenue in, and a fun way for different players to customize the console as well.
Okay, I'm gonna do something here. Hold on, we're gonna wing this.
You gonna put up the picture?
Okay, I'm gonna put this back up.
He's got that smirk. I don't know what's coming.
Just as an example, we're not gonna play the full video because it's a full 7 minutes long. It's totally not worth it.
Yeah, I think if we can get a picture of like the bigger components.
Yeah. So first off, Xbox UK actually made a tweet, a subtweet, if you will, about the fact that the base for the PlayStation 5 is removable and you can change it for when you want to put it flat, which they deleted later on, which was really funny. But yeah, so you can do that. Let me see here. Let's skip around.
It was just so trolly. Xbox is like how to lay down the PlayStation 5, and then they have this whole unscrewing thing, and then how to lay down the Series X, and they just topple it over. It was very
okay. So just real quick, in comparison to this man doing this deconstruction of this unit, that is absolutely massive. That unit is wider than that man is. Like, put that into consideration. This is like a 17-inch laptop. It feels like that's like 5 inches thick. This is a massive console. Okay, we'll skip towards the end.
Is a big one.
Let's see here. Let me get all laid out on the table, please.
Probably sounds like one too.
This.
I've heard it's very quiet, actually, supposedly.
It is incredibly quiet. Well, I don't think it's incredibly quiet, but from what I've heard, it's a lot quieter than a lot of people are thinking it is. Yeah, this is a lot of console in a very massive case. Again, if you do this, your warranty is 100% voided. But I will say this. It is worth watching the video because it shows you how far you can actually go with the unit before your warranty is voided. You actually see the moment he removes the warranty tape that goes over the master screw to actually get into the guts of the unit. So you can actually get pretty far. And I like the fact that there's an M.2 expandable drive bay in the PlayStation as well. And I agree with you, Joey. The removable side panels are incredibly convenient for customization of this unit. I don't know. Like this is massive. Like every time I see this video, every time I see an image compared to an actual human, this product just looks even bigger every single time I see this. I literally have no room on my desk right now. Like my PlayStation 4 is here. I don't know anywhere I could put it on my physical desk that it would fit. It just makes it's that big. It's massive.
It is massive indeed. A couple other things that we got from the breakthrough, just breaking it down into a few more bullet points. The heatsink is giant, and this should be a win. The heatsink being big is supposed to help draw that heat out because, again, we have heard those overheating issues. This supposedly was why they ended up with such a big console design, because they're able to put this giant heatsink in. On top of that, it's going to run liquid metal as part of its infrastructure as well. Liquid metal is one of those, I mean, I would call it a newer thing in the industry. John, you can probably speak on it better than I can. There are a few people that are skeptical about how it's going to work potentially as the years go on, as some different devices have failed after a couple years of using it. But overall, it's supposedly been tested number of times, and it's supposed to keep that heating quite down.
Yeah, it's actually really big. Liquid metal is mainly used for like your massive extreme temperatures. The one thing you have when you come to water cooling is what happens when water and heat come together. The water essentially evaporates. That's over time. You have to refill your coolant. Obviously, you can't do that with a console. If it is running that hot, liquid metal is a smart move. I believe this is the first time it's been used in a console. I couldn't find any evidence to prove otherwise. So it is a massive deal here for PlayStation, realizing that, yes, our console runs hot, and yes, we have a solution for it. Liquid metal is really, really cool. And I think that's... Guys, don't go looking for it, though, because you're going to avoid the warranty. Just don't do it. It looks cool. Watch it on the video. It is a really unique way to keep your system cool, and I think Sony's onto something there.
Right, and I believe you're correct. I think this is one of the, again, they had some overheating issues earlier in the year in production. I think this is probably one of the solutions that came up. Like, we're having issues with fans. It's not cooling it off enough. How can we continue to improve our heat sink? Adding this liquid metal element seems to be the answer that Sony came up with. Only time will tell how effective it is, but at least based on early tests, it seems like it should be a good move. Again, the stand is removable. We saw that a bit in that video, just closely. It has to be swapped out with a screw. Not the end of the world. You pull a screwdriver out if you want to lay it sideways. You end up moving that stand. It's one of those things that, yes, it does take a little bit of extra work, but guys, if unscrewing a screw is really that much work, then just leave the console as it is. It shouldn't be that big of an issue. Additionally, the SSD storage expansion is located inside. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. It was rumored. It is now confirmed that that is inside. It is an M.2, which is a big win. But you do have to be careful when you go inside a console, like John said. To deal with that SSD, you do not have to cut that tape. Make sure you see it before you go to the point where you cut the tape. You do not want to void a warranty adding extra storage to your console, because that becomes a giant issue later down the road potentially. So just be very careful if you do eventually get to that point where you want to increase your space by adding another SSD in. Anything else on that console reveal that we got earlier this week, John?
It was nice to know someone was allowed to touch a PlayStation 5.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so that man was able to touch his PlayStation 5. Whether he was at gunpoint, we don't know, but he did give us a full reveal. So we did get that.
He was in that white room everyone was talking about that they could go into, but they couldn't touch. So at least they had the same room.
So weird. I just don't understand that. But hey, it wasn't padded, so at least that's an improvement, right?
Yet. Static.
Xbox's Power Your Dreams launch campaign kicks off tomorrow with a new trailer and the announcement of a virtual fan fest event. I think I've teased this on the show. I'm not sure if I have, but Xbox is planning another event toward late October, early November, potentially. I think this is probably going to be the event that gets announced tomorrow. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that is hopefully what I'm leaning toward as well. So again, campaign kicks off for tomorrow for the launch. I think Sony kicked theirs off this previous week with that console reveal, as well as an earlier trailer dropped in Japan. So we should start seeing a lot more trailers, a lot more ads on television, a lot more gaming ads in general for these two consoles and these new games that are supposed to be launching in early November. So expect a lot more of that talk to be shown on your games, on your YouTube videos, your Twitch. Maybe we'll even run an ad on LvLUp. Who knows? But yeah, lots of console talk coming for the next couple weeks in advertisements.
Yeah, and the best part is, just like in years past, if you watch on Mixer, you can get... I'm sorry, what was that? That's right, Mixer's dead. So it'll be interesting to see if they do drops on Twitch or something else.
We will wait and see on that one. Touching a little bit more on the Xbox FanFest thing, it is going all digital. So for those of you who do not know what FanFest is, it's usually a giant event once or twice a year for Xbox fans. I think historically they've been in LA, maybe Mexico City and London have been the big cities. Berlin might have got one too. but it's a number of big cities throughout the world. They drop this huge Xbox event. They usually will mention studio acquisitions. They'll show off some new games. They'll talk about some Game Pass news, et cetera, et cetera. Kind of a cool thing. And then they do meet and greets throughout, like come together, play together, meet people, nice social thing going on, et cetera. So it's going to be all digital this year, supposedly. They're going to share more information tomorrow. There is a website already up. It's xbox.com/fanfest. The registration goes online on Monday, I believe 9 p.m. Eastern time for those interested. I don't think it's going to be like a mad rush. It is free to enter, and I think it's like unlimited. So no real big rush on that one, but that does go live on Monday. And we should get some other surprises like digital merchandise. I think they'll give away content, maybe gift cards, maybe, I don't know, wearable stuff. Who knows what is all going to be put in there as goodies. But again, that should be more information tomorrow, and then again, more Monday. Little bit of sadder news. Activision-Blizzard has closed down its long-running Blizzard office in Versailles, France. The office was responsible for handling customer service, localization, marketing, and other assorted tasks for the EU region. This is also following a massive layoff from Activision-Blizzard in 2019. I believe it was March 2019. So Blizzard, I don't want to say they're doing poorly, but they're not doing the greatest when it comes to employee management. Definitely a lot of layoffs, a lot of cut offices and such over the last couple of years, this being the next one in the taskbar. I'm a little upset about this. Again, I don't know anyone in particular in that office. I don't know exactly the tasks that I manage outside of this brief description that we have here from the articles we've read. But overall, it's just upsetting to see Blizzard continue to pull itself back more and more as it continues to go on. And again, I think a lot of this comes from that Activision influence. And I think so far we really haven't seen, I'm going to say the leadership. We haven't seen the leadership that we want from that office. Blizzard used to be this beautiful fan-made creativity studio where they continue to be very much impressed with their fans and allowing those fans to give feedback on different forums, on different platforms for social media. And they would really take that input into what they created these games and how they continue to evolve these games. Nowadays, it almost feels very microtransaction heavy. Again, I think they have some good stuff in the pipeline. WoW Shadowlands should be good. Overwatch 2 has some hype behind it. There's a number of projects in the works. Diablo 4 is another big one. But overall, it's one of those things where it's starting to almost lose its magic a bit or lose that fan connection that it once had, and closing more and more offices. While these might not have been directly connected with fans, they were a little bit with customer service. But again, more and more employees being let go. We've seen other employees leave to make their own studio. It just feels like there's turnover and turmoil for the last couple of years here at Activision-Blizzard.
No, you're 100% correct. I think this is a bad move. This was essentially the Blizzard hub for Europe and really the rest of the world. It's tough. EU has a massive player population when it comes to World of Warcraft, when it comes to Overwatch, when it comes to StarCraft fans, when it comes to Heroes, when it comes to you name it. Blizzard's created a very unique universe through several different titles that has captured the hearts and minds of gamers all over the world. This studio in France was there to assist those gamers. Like, that is a big thing. A 24-hour customer support center in Los Angeles is great. But it works even better and more consumer friendly when there's more than just one customer service center. It's tough. And I have to agree with you. I feel like this is more from the Activision side than anything. Blizzard, that company has really changed in the last several years with Activision coming on board. I'll leave it up to you, the viewer, to decide whether you're happy with the changes or if you're not. I personally am not happy with the changes. I think Activision may have done some good things here and there, but overall, I just haven't been happy with how that whole process has been handled, how the Blizzard universe has been handled. And this is another step in that direction where it just feels like it just sits wrong. And like, if you want to blame it on the pandemic, okay, that's fine. I expect it to reopen then. Once, money starts coming back in, if we're going to say that's the excuse, if we're going to say, it's for the health and safety of the employees, okay, fine, great. Have them work from home. I'm not going to pretend to know what's going on behind the scenes, but the move overall as a gamer doesn't sit well with me because it's a massive loss for a huge segment of gamers in Europe and Asia that go into that support center.
Right. And I think that's the bigger thing here. Like, we don't know the data. We don't know how many calls they ended up getting. We don't know how many marketing materials they pumped out on a regular basis. We have no idea what any of those numbers look like. We're purely going off what we've read, what we've seen so far as very limited numbers, but just the idea of this office being closed over there in France. So again, a lot of information that we can't really speak on. So take it as you can. Just our personal opinion, as John said, as kind of gamers coming in. And this is something that's not necessarily just Activision-Blizzard either. For me, John, EA taking over BioWare, I think it's been a giant mess. We saw Anthem with a terrible release. We saw them release Andromeda, not finished either, for Mass Effect, a number of other projects, and it sounds like BioWare was quite mismanaged as well, based on an article that we saw come out. I think it was Jason Shearer that wrote that one up. So a number of different things, whether it be EA, whether it be Activision, a number of these big companies buying out studios. Microsoft with Bethesda is the most recent. We don't know how that one will play out just yet. From the history of things, at least in this upcoming or the last couple of years, let's say, Microsoft has allowed a lot more creative freedom to the studios that they've bought out. But again, time will tell if that actually ends up being the case here with Bethesda. Will they still have that control, or will Microsoft kind of force that corporate finger on them? We really don't know as of yet. But so far with Activision and with EA, we've seen some mixed cases here and there that haven't really settled that well with gamers as of yet. The NBA 2K League has announced the NBA 2K League Draft Prospect Series. John, breaking this down just a little bit, and then you can dive deeper into it. The series will see NBA 2K League teams host 2 NBA 2K21 Pro-Am tournaments. That is one for Xbox players on the Xbox One and one for PS4 players as well, with tournament winners eventually facing off against each other in later December. Additionally, 8 NBA 2K League teams will host 2K21 Pro-Am tournaments on the PS5 and Xbox Series X after the holiday, starting in January of next year. All players on the winning team from each tournament will become draft eligible, with hosting NBA 2K teams able to select one player from the non-winning team as well to become draft eligible too. Last but not least, players who earn eligibility through these tournaments can no longer compete in other eligibility tournaments. So if John goes on to win the Wizards District Gaming Tournament, he is no longer able to enter these draft eligibility tournaments to continue to compete against these players, as he has already earned his eligibility. For me, John, these are great changes. I like this a lot better than the Combine. I think it not only selects a bit more of a team approach, but it also allows tournaments to be the showcase for these players, not just purely playing a bunch of games and hoping to do well enough to make it stat-wise into this Combine. It was like 30 games they had to win or something like that, if I remember correctly. But on top of that, now really competing in an environment that's going to be a bit more similar to the NBA 2K. Not necessarily in quality, but in that tournament format. Now you're showcasing yourself in a tournament as opposed to just a random pickup game where you have to just acquire win totals. You actually have to run through this tournament.
You're 100% correct. And the biggest takeaway for this change, and the thing that really has the 2K community excited about this, that grind, and I believe the number was closer to 50. It was a massive amount of games.
It was high, whatever it was, yeah.
Yeah, it was a massive amount of games you had to play, and you had to win a good majority of them. If you went like 25 and 25, it's not going to look good. The biggest issue is you got teamed up with players that were not just, they weren't motivated. Like, if you are a competitor and you have that high drive and you want to try to make it to the league, you need 4 other players on your team that have that same drive, that have that same motivation. You don't have that, guess what? You're not getting the passes you need. You're not getting the rebounds you need. You're not getting the assists and the team play that you need. You're not able to get the stats that these teams are looking for because you have people throwing up a 3-point shot from half court every other possession. You just can't do it. Or you have players that don't focus on defense. You have players that, you have arguments over, do we play zone? Do we play man-to-man? Do we go to a pick and roll style offense? Do we go to a corner offense? There's so many different things here that have been solved with this change. Now you create your team. You are in charge of your team. You play, you grind it out, you go through these tournaments, and you can qualify. The entire team can qualify if you win the tournament. And if you don't win the tournament, but you still stood out, each team that holds one of these tournaments can select one player from a non-winning roster to become draft eligible as well. This just makes it so much better for you, the gamer that wants to try to make it to that next level in 2K, to make it to the league. this is the way to do it, and it's been incredibly well received by the 2K community. So I applaud the league for making this change. It is absolutely huge. I am super psyched to watch the reigning champs WizDG put on their tournaments. They announced it almost immediately after this press release came out the other day. A lot of other teams came out with more information as well. Definitely go to the league website if you are interested in competing in these tournaments. It's crazy not to. Just for the experience also, if you can get picked up onto a team, the experience of going through that grind, going through these tournaments, meeting and networking is absolutely massive. So I absolutely love this change. The community loves the change. And I think, the 2K League deserves a massive amount of kudos and round of applause for making this change, realizing that this was something that has plagued the process for the last several years and not being afraid to make that major change.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, I think it came just in time as well. It's one of those things where now we're entering into another season. We've seen a few seasons happen already. We've done the combine for a few seasons, and we've seen the blessings and the not so good things about it as well, the pros and cons, as you say. I think this is one of those big things where they've looked back, they've evaluated. These are the things that went well with the combine. These are the things that did not go so well. How can we also help it make it easier for teams to evaluate players too, outside of just watching game film, watching interviews? Now you get to see them compete in a tournament environment, something that we see in multiple times throughout the NBA 2K season, where they're competing either in matchups or the tip-off tournament, the turn tournament, the ticket. There's a number of other tournaments throughout the season as well. And I think this is one of those things where now they get that look at that tournament status, not just purely tournaments that are put on by the community, which again are great. I think the NBA 2K community does a very good job hosting their own tournaments, but now you have these official ones happening as well from actual 2K team organizations. So I think it's another win, not only for the players, but for the teams, for the league, to continue to build up that ability to see these players in a new environment and in a new way compared to what we currently had with the combine in previous seasons. Back to a little bit more unfortunate news. This one coming with League of Legends Oceanic Pro League, the OPL region. Riot has announced this is really sad, the dissolution of the OPL. So they are going to be breaking it down and closing Riot Sydney's office, as it was primarily focused on league operations. Riot has stated, however, that they are still committed to supporting the pros from the Oceanic scene, and they'll be doing this in a little bit of a unique way. Beginning with the 2021 season, OCE will be added to the competitive territory of the LCS. So North America will now be allowed to offer Oceanic players spots on the team without taking up an import slot. We've already seen some players like Ryomu moved over to 100 Thieves in this previous season. However, he did hold that import slot. Now he no longer will. So for NA, I think this is, I guess we're going to call it a win for NA, because it does expand that player pool where they might have been struggling a bit before and they've had to look to EU to import, or maybe not had to, but they did anyway. Now they have a few more options here from the Oceanic region as well. For the Oceanic region, I think this is a win in the sense that they're probably going to see a lot bigger salaries in the LCS if they get brought over. On top of that, you do have a little bit more of a stronger region overall. Again, it might not look like that on paper, but when it comes to the salaries, when it comes to the exposure, LCS is definitely bigger than what we saw with the Oceanic League. But to me, the biggest weakness for this, John, is that now players who want to continue their League of Legends careers are going to have to make a move either to Europe, to an Asian country for one of these Asian leagues, or all their way to NA, where they do have the status as residents now when it comes to League of Legends leagues. And that's a lot to ask some young kid, whether he's 16 and up and coming, whether she's 17 and ready to go to college as well, part-time. It's just asking someone to say, if you want to continue your career, now you have to go overseas somewhere else to do that. And yes, you're getting more money potentially to do that, but at the same point, you're asking them to leave their family. And I think that could be a bit of a setback for some of these OCE players.
Yeah. And, for organizations that take the academy system seriously, obviously Cloud9 comes to mind because they've utilized it so incredibly well. This opens up another source pool for your academy team to find that diamond in the rough, to polish it up and get that player ready for the LCS stage. I like this move overall. I think it's a good compromise. Obviously, I don't like seeing the entire league shut down, but I think it's a good compromise for players. I do think that the travel is a major issue. I mean, we're talking like a 12, 13, 14, 15-hour flight from North America to Australia. It's not, a 6-7 hour flight to Europe It's not like one of those things where it's like, oh, I can go home for like 3 days or 3 or 4 days in Europe and come back. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, if you're flying to Australia to go home, you lose a day traveling there, and then you land before you take off technically when you come back, which is a kind of a cool thing with the international dateline. But it's good for the player pool. It's good for the academy system. Squircle makes a very good point in chat also. He brings up the fact that, would some LCS teams play Oceanic players over NA for a lower salary? That is always something to consider, especially if they're an academy player and they haven't been proven on a big stage. You can definitely justify paying less for that player until they become a proven commodity for that team, and then they can demand a higher salary. I feel like that's common, not just in esports, but in sports in general, that, when you go younger, it tends to be cheaper. When you go with unproven talent, it tends to be cheaper. Until that talent becomes proven, then they can demand a higher salary. But yeah, that is a legitimate threat. If you're an NA fan, that is a route your organization could possibly go, if they choose to do so. That is definitely something to keep in mind.
I did not expect to go here, but Squircle has brought us to this point.
Yeah.
I think NA players are way overpaid. Just look at their performance at Worlds. Like, you look at the EU salaries compared to NA salaries, NA players are getting paid tons more than a lot of these EU players. Like a Reckless, a Perks, a Caps, that's a different story. But on the average player for NA versus EU, the numbers are astronomically higher. That is insane to me. So maybe, like Squircle was saying, maybe we eventually see the Oceanic players coming in here to, I'm going to say, like, rebalance the salaries in NA. Because if you're paying all these players the amount they are, and then you're having a TSM go 0-3 the first week of Worlds, you shouldn't be paying players Thursdays. Paying players as much as you are is just outrageous to me. So maybe this is the reset that NA needs. Maybe they come in here and they're able to lower salaries a bit. They're able to get them to a little bit more of a modern level, because we just saw salaries like skyrocket. And it's like League of Legends, yeah, it's doing so well, and it's doing great. But again, now your salaries are so not competitive. They're so high compared to a lot of other things. And when you're getting your butt kicked by European teams over and over by lower paid players, there's some kind of issue going on. There's some kind of balance issue. So I do like this move overall in that sense. For Oceania, I think I think you said compromise, John, and I think I would call it a compromise as well. It's one way for players to continue to move forward with a little bit of a boundary being taken off teams, with them not having to get an import slot for it. At the same point, that travel's crazy, and I think it's closer to like 20, 21 hours, I want to say, from Los Angeles over to Australia. So it's huge. And I think that's Los Angeles to Sydney, if I remember correctly. So we're talking lots and lots of times. And again, it's not the end of the world. It's one day out of 365. But overall, it is a lot of time of a commitment, especially for some of these younger players who might not be ready to leave their families yet. We've seen it as an issue in the LEC before, where players are just so young and they have to leave their countries because EU is made up of so many different countries. They leave, and then they have some issues where they want to go back home more often because of the stressful environment, et cetera, et cetera. So that could be an issue here potentially. But again, I think it just makes it harder for kids to stay in school and continue to play League of Legends. Again, a lot of the bigger leagues are already pulling them out of school anyway and doing a tutoring system. So I think this might be a way to accelerate those OCE players forward. But on a simplistic look at things, it does make it a lot harder for them, because they're going to have to travel farther. They're going to have to be away from their families, which, again, might not be a terrible thing depending on the circumstances. But overall, it's definitely going to be a sacrifice made by these OCE players if they want to continue their careers.
And just real quick, Joey, because I'm an aviation nerd and I had to look this up. It is 20 hours from New York to Sydney. It is 15 hours from LAX to Sydney. And since most esport organizations in League of Legends are based out of LA, we're talking a 15-hour flight on only 8 flights per week. 8 flights. And that is through all carriers that fly in through LAX. That's not Europe. Like, you can go to Berlin, Munich, London, Paris, Rome, like 18 times every single day through all the airline carriers. Obviously, Australia is a lot farther than Europe in most cases, depending upon which coast you're flying from. There's a higher demand to go to Europe, obviously, than there is to Australia, which is why it's so low. But you're talking 8 flights per week. What if 2 of them get canceled because of bad weather. What if a plane breaks down and they can't make that flight out there? Then that's multiple flights canceled. Now you have an issue with people going home on vacation, or going home for schooling, or going home for a family emergency, if something like that was to happen. And now they're supposed to be back in a week, and now it's being delayed to 2-3 weeks because a plane broke down or because of bad weather. There's a lot of gray area that's going to have to be sorted out with the addition of the Oceanic region into the LCS. But that is something to also keep in mind, is the fact that travel is so much more restricted at the moment. And that is, I don't believe, is Australia allowing Americans to even fly to Australia right now?
I don't think anywhere is allowing Americans.
We're not allowed to
now.
go anywhere right now. But just in a non-COVID world, if you will, 8 flights a week, that's not a lot.
I mean, I've been on the flight to Australia from LA to Sydney. It is long as hell, guys. Like, I think there were 4 meals served or something on that flight. Like, it is so long. And I do not sleep on planes. I hope these players can, because that is torture. It is. God, that makes me sad. It's so long, guys. Such a long flight. But again, it's only one day. You sacrifice 2 days, depending on the international dateline there. It's going to be tough for a lot of these players. I think leaving home. Again, I think flights would be paid for, so I don't think that would be any kind of issue. I think these organizations would cover it. But again, it is the idea of leaving something you're comfortable with, completely going somewhere else. And again, EU players do this. Like Reckless is from Sweden. He goes down to play in Berlin. A number of these other players have had to leave their countries already, but again, they're still in their own continent of EU. Australia is now being asked to leave their continent completely. Again, it can be more lucrative. I think that is a big advantage for them potentially, and that could be a giant win for Oceanic players. But it is a sacrifice to be made as well. With that, John, let's go into some esports results before we wrap up today's show. We got to talk Overwatch League because the LvLUp Podcast has been killing it. We are perfect, ladies and gentlemen, through the Overwatch League bracket. Every single one, the Asian bracket, the NA bracket, onto the grand finals. John, you were not perfect anymore. You lost one match. Seoul Dynasty, San Francisco, John and I finally picked different teams for once this whole season. Seoul, not the whole season, but the whole playoff.
It went 5, though. It went 5.
It did go 5. We predicted 5. I had 3-2 San Francisco, and he had 3-2 Seoul Dynasty. Seoul Dynasty did fall in this one, but we did hit it correctly on the Shanghai side. I think we said 4 games. I think we said 3-1 Shanghai. It did end up being 3-0 with Shanghai moving on, which sets us up for a Seoul Dynasty Philadelphia Fusion matchup in the losers bracket, with NA's San Francisco Shock moving on to play the Shanghai Dragons on the winner side bracket. I believe we already picked our winner. John and I did have San Francisco up against Shanghai in the finals. We're not quite there yet, so we'll give you guys a little bit more of that prediction goodness that we've given so far this tournament. Seoul Dynasty, Philadelphia Fusion, John, who are you taking, and what's your estimate on games?
Seoul Dynasty, I think it's gonna be 3-1. I'll take Seoul Dynasty.
I'm taking Seoul Dynasty 3-1 as well. So we are back on our little agenda here.
Sorry.
Seoul, I think, is the stronger team out of these two. Philadelphia really likes that Sombra Reaper combo. And while I think it's still potent, I think it's very counterable, and I think Seoul will come out with the counters needed to finish this one up in 4. San Francisco, Shanghai. So we have predicted the final. We said Shanghai over San Francisco again, but we did not predict the winners final yet because we weren't quite sure where this was going to go. Are you going to take Shanghai in this one as well, or do you give San Fran the first win of the leg?
No, I think Shanghai takes this. I think it's going to be 3-1 also. Shanghai's too good. 3-0ing Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a very strong team. We saw how dominant they were on the NA side of the league this year, and they got swept. I think San Francisco was their biggest competitor. So I think it's going to be 3-1. I think the Shock can take a game off of Shanghai, but I do see Shanghai taking it.
Wow, we're going to be different on this one, John, but not in the results. Shanghai Dragons are going to take the win here, but I will go 3-2. I think San Francisco pushes them to the limit. We did see Seoul Dynasty push Shanghai to a 3-2 victory in favor of Shanghai. San Fran beating Seoul. I think this one goes 5 games as well. Shanghai is the winner, though. And then I don't know if there's another prediction. I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, but we're both going to take the winner or the loser of the winner's bracket, whether it be San Fran or Shanghai, to upset, or not upset, but to take down Seoul or Philadelphia, I would assume.
Yeah.
We're still sticking with San Fran, Shanghai. All these things are like tongue twisters to me. So in the end, for these matchups upcoming, John and I are going Seoul Dynasty over Philly, and that is a 3-1. And then Shanghai over San Francisco. John is going 3-1 Shanghai. I'm going 3-2 Shanghai. And again, we do have Shanghai winning it all. We'll see if we can continue our pretty much perfect bracket run so far through the Overwatch League playoffs. Over to League of Legends Worlds, our final topic of the day. Group A has ended, and it has ended with a bit of excitement. Team Liquid, the NA Hope, that number 3 seed from NA that looked like they were going to take the number 1 seed as we headed into summer playoffs. They fell a little bit off that horse. They ended up with that 3rd seed. They made their way through Worlds playoffs, and now they found themselves in Group A with Suning, G2 Esports, and Maki Esports. After a day 1 loss to Maki Esports, Team Liquid has bounced back to a 3-3. Unfortunately, they did not bounce back enough to advance into the quarterfinals as Suning takes the number 1 spot in a tiebreaker match over G2. G2 finishes second, 4-3, TL at 3-3, and Maki Esports at 1-5. John, I think you and I predicted this group the same way. I had G2 first, Suning second, then TL and Maki respectively. Overall, we hit 2 of those 4, if that's how you predicted it as well. That slight flip-flop with G2 actually losing that tiebreaker match to Suning.
Yeah, I do believe we both had G2 in the number 1 seed there. Good games, very good games between the two teams. The first go around, the second go around, and the tiebreaker, I felt like these two teams were the cream of the crop. In Group A, it was a slugfest for the 1 seed. I feel like it ended the way it should have. Suning is a very strong team, gave G2 a good run for their money. NA fanboys, get your tissues ready. Oh, Team Liquid, they're so good on paper. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. NA, again, failing to do anything in Worlds. So guess what, NA fans? It comes down to TSM and FlyQuest. And if that's not depressing enough, TSM pulling a TSM and not winning a single game so far. And in their group, there's a 3-way tie for first place. They are in trouble. I don't see TSM doing too much. FlyQuest, they may get another win, but still not going to be enough. NA, pack it up, go home. It's not looking good this year. Cloud9's not in, and so far they're the only organization that can do anything in Worlds.
Wow, John laying down the hammer and allowing that C9 fanboyness to a little bit show out there at the end. Group B, though, John, before we go give our last hopes to NA, let's talk about a group that does not have an NA team. This is Group B. Damwon sitting comfortably on top at 3-0. Rogue did push them in 1 game, but again, not enough of a push to take a loss. JD Gaming 2-1, Rogue at 1-2, and PSG Talon, after a really good play-in stage, having their 2 players have to get subbed out. They originally had subs in the play-in stage due to some visa issues. Now the main player's back, and they are not looking like the same team, sitting at 0-3 here at the bottom of Group B. Overall, I think this one stays chalky. I think Damwon finishes on top. I think JD Gaming comes in second, Rogue and PSG respectively in third and fourth. Rogue, again, a very strong team. I think had they been in like a spot similar to Team Liquid, I think they easily could have come out, or at least had a good opportunity to come out as the number 2 seed. But up against JD Gaming as the number 2 from China, Damwon, the number 1 from South Korea. This is a very, very tough group, and I would be very surprised if we see Damwon or JD Gaming drop out.
Yeah, I think the current standings, what you're looking at on your screen right now, I think that's going to remain the final standings. I think Damwon 1, JD 2, Rogue 3, PSG 4. That to me seems like a fairly straightforward group. Again, weird things happen in the second go around, but I don't see 1 or 2, the first or second seed here in Group B. I don't see those 2 changing at all.
And with that, we're going to skip over Group C because I think it's the most exciting left. Group D on the board. Top Esports, the number 1 seed from China at 3-0. I believe it's the number 2 seed from South Korea, DRX, sitting at 2-1. FlyQuest at 1-2 as NA's second to last hope. And then the Unicorns of Love at 0-3. I predicted this group as top, then DRX, then UOL, and then FlyQuest. I still think it can end that way as well.
Yeah, I still think it can end that way as well. This is another group, a lot in comparison to Group B. Top Esports, definitely the cream of the crop here. They're playing incredibly well. DRX playing as well too. FlyQuest, again, not a lot of hope for them. They should be very proud with what they did in the LCS. They made it to Worlds. They're performing decent, but not. I mean, they're performing better than TSM is what I should say, which is always a plus. So good for FlyQuest. Unicorns of Love 0-3. I really don't see too much changing here. There might be some jockeying for first or second seed here, depending upon how DRX bounces back in the second playthrough. But when it comes to 3 or 4, I think those might flip also. You could easily see FlyQuest at 4 as well. So I feel like 1 and 2 can be interchangeable, and 3 and 4 can be interchangeable here in Group D.
I think a little bit differently. I think Top Esports is going to go 6-0. I think they're one of the strongest teams throughout the whole tournament. So I do think they handily lock up that number 1 spot, with DRX handily locking up the number 2, probably at a 4-2 record. Again, I think UOL is a stronger team than FlyQuest personally. FlyQuest, again, it can be a bit of a coin flip between both of them. The first match was as well, but UOL, I think, has the potential to upset them. So we could see either one of them flop for that 3rd or 4th spot, but it could easily end this way as well. Over to Group C, one of the most exciting groups so far. We have a 3-way tie for first place. That is Gen G at 2-1, Fnatic and LGD also at that 2-1 record, with TSM not really being super competitive currently at an 0-3. I don't see TSM spot changing. I think they have 4th lockdown pretty handily. But Gen G, Fnatic, and LGD, I honestly don't know how I want to take these teams out, John. Do you have 2 teams that you see advancing from this group at this point?
It's tough. It really is tough between these 3. It's definitely the group of death, 100%. I believe that was one of the groups that we designated the group of death when we saw the draw come out. I believe I said Gen G and Fnatic make it out of this group. LGD is definitely a team you can't sleep on. They've been playing incredibly well. It's tough. It feels like it's a toss-up between any one of these 3. I'm going to stick with my original prediction, though. I'm going to stick with Gen G and Fnatic. I'm not sure who gets the first seed, though. I feel like that's where I struggle, is how the final seeding is going to go, whether it's going to be Fnatic 1, Gen G 2, or Gen G 1, Fnatic 2. But I'm going to stick with my original prediction. I'm going to stick with Gen G and Fnatic.
Yeah, this is one of those games that's going to take place 4 a.m. Eastern time is when this group kicks off on Saturday. It's one that I'm honestly kind of thinking about possibly watching all of them, just because it can go back and forth every way. LGD beat Fnatic. Fnatic beat Gen G. Gen G beat LGD. It's almost like a little rock, paper, scissors game going between these 3, or at least in the week 1 matchups of Group C. So I think it could really go either way as well. I want to say prediction-wise, I picked Gen G first, Fnatic 2nd, LGD 3rd, TSM 4th, similar to what we see on the screen right now. I would not be surprised to see LGD take another game off Fnatic. I would also not be surprised to see Fnatic take another game off of Gen G. Personally, again, a little bit of bias going on, but I think Fnatic lost to LGG more on the draft than anything else. Their draft was quite weak. They drafted like a Jhin into a bunch of tanks. Selfmade on Graves has not really been the strongest of performances for Selfmade. He did not have a win up until that final game they played up against Gen G. So it's one of those things that I personally would have changed a few things in the draft, and I think that game could have gone differently. But again, LGD did a lot of things well as well. So they came out strong. They showed Fnatic where their advantages were, and they took a lot of those advantages that Fnatic wanted away too. So I think I'm going to stick with my original one as well. I'm not super confident in it, but I do think Gen G and Fnatic do advance. I would not be surprised with Fnatic in first. I would not be surprised with Fnatic in third. So I think it could be a very interesting group to see how it plays out. But for now, I will go Gen G 1, Fnatic 2, LGD Gaming 3, TSM. I'm pretty confident we'll say in that 4th spot. Anything else you want to touch on, John, for Worlds? Just taking a quick look at the schedule, actually, before I pass it over to you. Tomorrow, we do have Group B taking off. So that, again, is your PSG, your Damwon, Rogue, and JD Gaming. Then on to Saturday, we have that Group C taking place. Fnatic, TSM, LGD, and Gen G, with Group D wrapping up on Sunday. FlyQuest, DRX, UOL, and Top Esports in that top spot as of right now. So a lot of exciting Worlds group play action still to come this weekend. And then from there, we move into quarterfinals.
Yeah, I may join you 4 a.m. on Saturday to watch that.
Little watch party?
Oh, God, what was it? Last year or 2 years ago, we did the watch party. And we were like, yeah, join us on Discord. You know, we'll do like this huge, group thing. We'll share it and we'll all watch.
It was what, like 2 of us?
It was like 2 or 3 of us. And like halfway through it, like I was starting to fall asleep again. Cause I'm just like, I got no sleep that night. And I'm just like, okay. I remember you woke up early for Fnatic. I ended up sleeping through it.
I think you were up by 5 or 6 though.
Up by 5.
I think it was like us and maybe Clue or Squircle. But yeah, it was very, very small.
It was, and I don't blame it. I don't blame anyone for not wanting to get up at 4 a.m. Eastern time to watch these games on a Saturday. I mean, let's be real here. It's the day you can sleep in. Hello. Yeah, I'll make up my mind. I'll see how I feel Friday night before I make any commitments to waking up early.
Sounds like a plan. So again, guys, lots of big action, whether you're in gaming and you're looking forward to that next launch of the Xbox and the PlayStation with their new marketing materials coming out, Overwatch League playoffs this weekend as well for their grand finals. And then again, League of Legends, the group stage wraps up this weekend. Tons of gaming news, tons of esports content to come. Should be a very exciting weekend ahead.
Well, Nation, that will do it for this edition of LvLUp Live. But before you go, head over to patreon.com/OTN and consider becoming a part of the Overtime Network. In return, you'll get access to exclusive content that nobody else in the world can get, unless they are a part of OTN Media. If you haven't already, make sure you follow the show here on Twitch to catch the next episode of LvLUp Live. If you listen to the show on our podcast feed, leave us a review. LvLUp Podcast is available on Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, and Google Play. We love to hear from all of our listeners so much. We have multiple ways for you to get a hold of us. Joey, where can LvLUp Nation go to hit us up?
LvLUp Nation, head on over to Twitter and find us at LvLUp Live. That is LvLUP Live. In addition to that, you can follow the umbrella company OTN Media as well. Twitter and Facebook at OTN Media and Instagram at OTN_media. Last but not least, find us on Twitch, twitch.tv/OTN Media. LvLUp Podcast is Mondays and Thursdays live on Twitch at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. A number of other streams throughout the week as well. Some exciting content being worked on behind the scenes too for that. So stay tuned for some great things on Twitch.
All right, make sure you tune in this upcoming Monday, October 12th, as we cover the latest and greatest in gaming and esports news and NA's continued downfall in League of Legends Worlds competition. Do your ears a favor, slap that sub and or follow button on Twitch. You know when the next episode of LvLUp Live is ready for your viewing pleasures. We will catch you all Monday. Have a great weekend, and remember, be nice to your fellow gamers online. And as always,
LvLUp.